You heard that right, sports fans. In this video that you've clicked on, I'm going to be ranking all six Midnight Club games from the worst to the best in this video. Again, 4 months, mind you, of playing every single Midnight Club game out of the wazoo. It's pretty crazy. It is absolutely really crazy that we're actually going to do this right here, right now. And I guess to kind of get some rules out of the way, there is one ranking I'm not going to rank in this one, and it's Midnight Club Los Angeles South Central. The reason being is that after much thought and simmering through and thinking about it, I figured to put the South Central DLC with Los Angeles for this ranking consideration. Plus, it's kind of like an extra bonus side content similar to Midnight Club 3 Double Edition Remix, so wanted to kind of get that out of the way for any Midnight Club enthusiasts. But like I said, without further ado, enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy it and see what you all think is the best and the worst Midnight Club games that the franchise has to offer. Alright, so now let's do it. Going back to the topsters list because I feel like it's a lot easier to rank them from worst to best. And you're probably thinking to yourself, hey, what is the worst Midnight Club game out there even though you've enjoyed majority of them? And if you're thinking to later have maybe LA Remix, you'll be dead wrong. The worst Midnight Club game ever, point blank period, is this, which I'm going to copy down right now and I'm going to type it. Midnight Club Advance. Now, this game itself was released as a port version for the Game Boy Advance. It's obviously the port for the OG Midnight Club 1. And this game is terrible. It sucks. I absolutely do not like this game. I absolutely try my best to finish playing through the game all the way through. And again, this game was exclusive for the Game Boy Advance. It essentially takes everything that was present, that was saying the groundwork of Midnight Club games, and it just feels so bad. Like game mechanic wise, it feels like a really rushed version of GTA Advance. And honestly, after replaying this game, it actually made me reappreciate GT Advance for its flaws. Because even though I also talked about that and I hated that game first and foremost, this doesn't even come close, man. Like the gameplay here for Midnight Club Advance looks something like this, where your car movement is kind of inverted. The vehicles half the time when it comes to speed makes no difference. It's honestly pretty underwhelming, especially when you look at what it had for its time. Again, if I was a kid, this was my first introduction to Midnight Club games, I would respect it. But knowing where Midnight Club games are and it could be, this is just not good. This is just a pale imitation of the first Midnight Club game, and that's simply what I can say about it, more or less. All right, but now we move on to the number five spot, and in number five, what I think could also be objectively the worst if we were to exclude ports at the end of the day would be Midnight Club LA Remix. Now, again, for anyone who has paid attention to my Midnight Club marathon up to this point, I have been pretty vocal about how much I do not like this game. I said from the higher tops that this game is just way too easy, and truth be told, after finishing through every Midnight Club game, this is the easiest that the franchise has to offer. Again, this is for the PSP port. This is obviously a broken down version of the LA Midnight Club Los Angeles original game. And look, truth be told, I do appreciate that we got two maps out of it, the LA map, a Tokyo map, and we were able to go back to the Midnight Club 2 maps in its own right. But in my view, it did came at the cost of removing half of the content that the original Midnight Club Los Angeles had to offer. And once again, racing wise, it's really cool. It's still fun to play. Like honestly, if you have a PSP and you have the time and energy, this is another cool way to get introduced to Midnight Club, honestly. But if you were to recommend to someone, oh yeah, play LA Remix because if you really love Los Angeles, I feel like a lot of them are going to be blindsided by how much of a downgrade this game is from its counterpart. And once more, I do think that at the end of the day, LA Remix was one of those cases where it didn't really have an identity to stand foot on, whereas Midnight Club Los Angeles had an identity, it had something going for it. And again, the numerous complaints about this game cannot be said so much at this point. The vehicles in this game is hit or miss. The maps are again repetitive. They're definitely less forgiving compared to Midnight Club Two's map, but at the same time, it's like you pretty much know what to expect if you've played Midnight Club 2 or even Midnight Club Three's remix Tokyo map in a way. So again, good game. It's respectable in its own right, but it's not a game that I could see myself ever going back to in the near future. Now, I just realized before we move on to the number four spot, there is one more thing I wanted to mention that I totally forgot to shout out in Midnight Club Advance's case. Midnight Club Advance actually has the one thing that is absent in every, honestly, just in every game in general, and that is a save point. So, the way Midnight Club Advance's save point works is that when you progress through a race in this game, you have to essentially like once you beat like a certain racer or a certain event or unlock a car, they give you a code and you have to essentially like remember that said code. Otherwise, you are so fucked that you have to essentially go back and restart the game. It's so stupid that like it pretty much to beat the game itself, you could just use that cheat code where it unlocks all the vehicles in the game, and you pretty much just like didn't put a lot of effort in said game itself. I think what they should have done with Midnight Club Advance was just give like an actual save point so you can it feels like you are progressing through the game like it was in Midnight Club One's console version. I don't know. It was really stupid, and I wanted to throw it out there before we move on to our number four spot. But yeah, number four spot. After much debate and looking at this in the grander scheme of things, now this is where we get into the real meat and potatoes of the franchise. And for me, it's gonna be Midnight Club 1. The first Midnight Club 1 game that really set the tone of what's to come. And look, I understand that, maybe it's a bit of a cop out to put this low on the list here, but there is something special about Midnight Club 1 that I really have to just yap about for a bit. So, like I said, Midnight Club 1, this was the game that actually got me to Midnight Club and racing games alone. Again, I cannot emphasize that without this game, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And like I said, I understand that maybe the game itself hasn't aged all too well. The controls are really janky at times. Hell, even the races can be really unforgiving, which I do see why some people have argued that this Midnight Club 1 is the hardest racing game still to this day. Like, some have argued it's even harder than 2 and 3 in its own respects. But for me personally, I feel like if you understand like how to just like turn exactly, because there's not a lot of turning in this game, like in the races itself, and once you know how to like control your gas pedal, you can pretty much go the extra mile and beat all the racers in career mode and unlock all the cars in arcade mode, because that's essentially the goal of finishing Midnight Club 1. But again, the game itself, for its time, given that it's the first racing game by Rockstar, it's held up pretty well. Again, you have some really nice vehicles for its time that really set the tone and the stage of future Midnight Club games. Again, the blueprint of what was to come, especially when you consider like you were to race in New York and you were to race in London, and they were really good. Again, it holds up really well. Yes, I would agree. Like, this is not a game that I would see myself like going back to every so often, because it is really tedious for the sake of being tedious. And unless you are just super patient when it comes to trying to finish through some of the races, I understand this is not going to be for everyone at the end of the day. But I feel like in general, this is a much, much better introduction to Midnight Club 1. Or if you really love like the Midnight Club games that came out past 1, this is a good little game to just go back to just appreciate and love and adore. And I think that's really about it. And for the longest time, too, this was in my top 3 for a valid reason. But putting it at the number 4 spot, I think makes a lot more sense when you consider what's in my top 3 here. But yeah, so top three, as I'm just figuring this out, pondering over this decision, I think at my number 3 spot, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with. Yeah, I think I might have to go with this one. I'm gonna go with Midnight Club Los Angeles. Now, look, this one was really tough for a variety of reasons. Los Angeles not only is the far better game compared to LA Remix, of course, but this game, as I mentioned when talking about this a couple of days ago now, is a game that for me has held up so well, given that this came out in 2008 and it was fully released in 2009. And I gotta say, man, visually, this game is incredible. The racing in this game is still stunning. The abilities in this game is still unique for its time that does carry over to other modern day racing games to this day. And I really do like the attention to detail, the little bit of background lore to what Midnight Club Los Angeles is all about. And once again, I feel like in the case of what they're doing here in the Midnight Club franchise, they're pretty much just taking like a lot of what you come to know of Midnight Club franchise itself, and they gave us like this epic, amazing yet beautiful game that is just super highly slept upon. And again, I don't know what more to say about this that hasn't been said. The customization in this game is incredible. The races in this game are just one to one, like really challenging, but they can also be easy. And there's so many different like bracers and mechanics that you come across when you play throughout this game. Yes, this game does have its shortcomings at the end of the day, as I even mentioned when talking about this, but it's still a fun game that's worth checking out, man. And even the Southside Crenshaw like DLC missions that are added if you get the complete edition is super worth it when you look at like all the other little details that the game has to offer. Like I don't know, there's so many like strong highlights here and there that I could go on and on about, but I can also understand like why this game doesn't get like a lot of talk or praise even to this day. But it's just one of those games that for me, if you really love street racing games and you just want to play a nuts to butt street racing game in a place that everyone's familiar with, Los Angeles has you covered all the way through. And finally, to wrap this up, I think I already know what our number one and our number two spot is going to be. So I'm going to talk about both of them at the same time just to cut through the bullshit. At the number two spot, I'm going to go with Midnight Club 3 Double Edition Remix, also known as Midnight Club 3, and number one, Midnight Club 2. And here is the reason why. Midnight Club 3 is at one point a game that I never played in my life, I will be the first to admit. And this was a game that I remember being praised and talked about numerous times. This was the game that put Midnight Club and the series itself on the map mainstream wise, because this was the first of its kind to have a lot of like actual real named vehicles. It had a lot of like big mainstream artists for its time popping up on this game. The infamous song with Real Big with Manny Fresh. This game was pumping when it came out. And again, Midnight Club 3, I can't deny is one, I would argue, would be the second easiest game that you can beat if it wasn't for the fact that towards the end it got a little bit progressively harder. But that's the beauty of it, is that when you really play Midnight Club 3 and to an extent the extended code with the Tokyo challenges, there's so much like content out there that the game, despite the fact that it doesn't capture like the characteristics of said game from 2, I really like this game so much because they really emphasize the customization of the cars. It really was the first to really make you go ape shit wild with it at times. And to me, I felt Midnight Club 3 was able to capture the street racing aesthetics that it was going for at its time. And once again, like needless to say, like even though like the one section of types of cars with the SUVs and trucks I did not like in this game, I still like it even like going through like everything else going back at this game. There's so much like character, there's so much charisma. The fact that you get to go into three different cities, with Detroit, Atlanta, and San Diego, is really saying a lot, man. There's so much life put into this game that you're just lost and just obsessed with the racing and just making sure you show off like the best flex of the century with your cars. And there's nothing more to be said about it. It's a game where if you don't really care about the story and you just want to just straight up nuts about race, then Midnight Club 3 has you covered. But with that being said, my number one spot is will always be this Midnight Club 2. Again, I cannot emphasize this game enough. Midnight Club 2 was to me the perfect, in my view, it was the perfect succession of not only Midnight Club 1, but this to me was the gold standard and should be the gold standard for many street racing games to come out back then and even to this day. Again, the game itself has held up extremely, extremely well. Again, Los Angeles map for Midnight Club 2 and the Tokyo map for Midnight Club 2 are pretty much iconic at this point. Paris is also in this game when you go through it. The fact that this game also has so many iconic characters that I could really dive deep into is also saying a lot. I mean, again, gameplay aside from this, it is like visually good. It is stunning. And even though, as I'm clicking through and you're like maybe seeing through like a little bit of like what these cars look like, yeah, they look a little bit dated for its time. But honestly, they still like have a lot of the charisma that you would expect from a street racing game. And simultaneously, this game has like one of the best soundtracks out of every Midnight Club game out there. Like again, I say my praises with this game so many times that I even made three freaking videos talking about how difficult it is and giving you all an update of like where I was as of late when it came to like beating this game. Because again, this is not an easy game. This is like one of the hardest racing games ever. I would even argue. But even then, this game still has so much character, so much charisma put into it that it's just so iconic. And to wrap this up, like this game also was one of the main reasons we got the modern day racing formats to begin with, from slipstreaming to burnout to being able to time your nitrous and your drifting properly. Again, this also was one of the few games where you actually cared and got a face-to-face interaction with said drivers that you're coming up against, which was really unique for its time. And again, needless to say, the characters here may be dated for some, but some of them have become so iconic in the Midnight Club franchise that it is so hard to not ignore them. And for many, many more reasons, I can honestly say that Midnight Club 2 will always be my number one spot. Yes, I could have put Midnight Club 3 in my number one because honestly, this was a much more better and much more funner game. Yes, I could have put maybe Midnight Club Los Angeles over here because this to me was everything that Rockstar was shooting for, and it was just like the perfected version of what you come to know and love about Midnight Club, and arguably the peak of Midnight Club. But 2 has something that is just genuinely special, and for me is a game that I always tend to come back to whenever I want to go back to a true blue nuts to butts racing game. And the fact that you can even play this on PC as of right now showcases how much Midnight Club 2's legacy is never going to die out, just as long as me and many others are going to talk about this game till the cows come home. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, as you can see right here, this is my ranking of every Midnight Club game from the best to the worst right here on screen. And yeah, that's basically about it. I'll see you all in possibly another racing franchise when that time comes. And that's it. I'll see you on the next one. Later.